Now, how does this feel? And how does this feel? And how does this feel? Now, it is exactly the same melody. But did you notice how this way of songwriting resulted in a completely different emotional experience of the melody? So the question today is, can we change the emotional impact of a melody or song with just one single note? Because that is what happened here. So that is what we are going to find out today in this music composition lesson. And although this is a guitar lesson or guitar tutorial, this is suited for every instrument. Now, I'll show you the music theory on how you can change the mood and emotion of a song, melody or guitar riff with just one or two strategic altered notes. Now, I will give you practical examples for practical use and some music theory for beginners and for nerds. So get ready, because we are going to do interesting things in this songwriting lesson and dwell into the world of modes, modal chord progressions and exotic scales, so that at the end of this video, you can find the right skill for the right emotion. Now, just like a painter uses different tools and materials to express himself, we musicians also have tools in the form of scales, chord progressions and melody, besides our instrument, of course. First of all, there isn't just a major scale and a minor scale to choose from, as you might think. There are very exciting shades in between that all evoke a different emotion. Now, often these scales are based upon parent scales like the major scale, the melodic minor scale and the harmonic minor scale, and maybe you've heard of them. Now, and we call those different shades modes. Now, this is not a tutorial that explains the concept modes. For that you have to watch my dedicated tutorial about modes of the major scale. But don't worry, you don't need to know about modes to follow this tutorial. So what are these scales that can give you either the cold shivers or let you dream away to far and unknown worlds? Now let's find out right now. Now, there are plenty of real-world examples, but I chose for a Steve Vai song to quickly show you the effect and power of using different scales for different emotions. Now, let's listen to the outline of a part of the crying machine and pay attention to the mood of the different parts. Now, I think you heard that when the funky rhythm part flowed into the melodic melody part, the mood drastically changed, right? Now, that's because it went from a minor mood in A minor to an uplifting hero mood in E major. But that's not all, because that A minor scale was changed to a so-called A Dorian scale. And that E major scale was changed to a so-called E Lydian scale. And that reinforced the mood change even more. Now, to demonstrate that, let me show you those scales, because we will use them in the essential examples later on. So the A Dorian scale used in the funky part looks like an A minor scale, but it has a major 6th F sharp instead of the usual minor 6th F. And this makes the sound much more hopeful than the sad sounding minor scale. Now just listen to the effect of that major 6th. That's a subtle but noticeable difference, right? And the E Lydian scale used in the melodic part is indeed a major scale, but it has an altered, sharpened 4th degree. Or call it an augmented 4th degree, whatever. And that single altered note, that sharp 4, makes the sound much brighter and uplifting than the sound of the basic major scale. Again, listen to the comparison. Now the Lydian scale feels a lot more intense, right? Now maybe it begins to dawn, right? Now let's look at some other super moody scales and see what emotions they evoke. Now before we change the mood of a song, I'd like you to meet some specific scales. Now we already exchanged numbers with the Dorian and the Lydian scale, so next up is a special, much darker and a bit of an evil sounding minor scale because of one altered note, and that's the flattened second degree. And this single note changes the mood completely. Now the name of such an altered minor scale is Phrygian scale, and it sounds like this over an E drone, and pay attention to that flattened second degree. So now we have seen the sad but hopeful Dorian scale, the uplifting and dreamy Lydian scale, and the dark and evil Phrygian scale. Now next up is the darker sounding major scale that sounds thick and a little bit bluesy, which is evoked by the flattened 7th degree instead of the usual major 7th degree. Now that note results in a weaker or milder resolution to the tonic note because it is now a whole step instead of a half step. And the name of this scale is Mixolydian scale. Let's hear the E Mixolydian scale over an E drone. These were just the scales, but how do we actually write music with such a scale? Therefore, we have to choose the right chords. But which chords? So to use such a moody scale to make music, we have to choose chords in that scale that bring out the specific emotion of a scale. It is quite simple actually. Just follow these two rules. Use chords that contain the characteristic note of that scale, like the natural 6th in Dorian, or the flat 2nd degree in the evil Phrygian scale, the sharp 4th degree in the dreamy Lydian scale, and the flat 7th in the Mixolydian scale. Then be careful with dominant 7th chords or chord sequences that lead to the parent scale of the mode. For instance, B major is the parent scale of E Lydian, right? Now, using the F-sharp dominant 7th chord in the E Lydian mode could pull the music back into B major, since F-sharp 7 is the dominant for the B major chord. So in the E Lydian mode, I would choose for an E major chord and a D-sharp minor chord and also a F-sharp major chord. Now all these chords contain the A-sharp, which is the characteristic sharp 4th degree. Now, if you'd like to know more, you could watch my dedicated tutorial about modal chord progressions or read the ebook and find out that a modal progression isn't a progression at all because modal progressions do not progress. And after all this preparation, we finally are where we should be. Can we change the emotion of a mood of a melody by changing 1 or 2 notes? Now, we'll find the answer in the next and last part of this video. Now, to demonstrate how all this can change the mood of a melody completely, I will harmonize the simple German melody Die Moorsoldaten that you might know as the Peatbog Soldiers, and that has a pretty charged history. It was a song of resistance in the German Nazi camps, and now it's one of Europe's best known protest songs and used by the peace movement today. So we'll harmonize the slightly altered melody with chords from the different scales that we have seen in this video. Sometimes I sharpen or flatten a note in that melody to fit the mode, otherwise it would sound pretty silly. So before I'll explain what I did exactly to get all those different emotions with one and the same melody, let's first listen to all the moods in a row. I'm using parallel modes, so the tonic is E in all the examples. The original melody is in a minor key, so we start with the E minor scale, And I see you on the other side of this mini emotional roller coaster. Now first I used the dramatics and sad E minor scale in which the original melody was written. Also known as the Aeolian scale, by the way, that's the same thing. Besides the tonic, I used the A minor and C major chord that both contain the characteristic minor sixth C. Now then I took the Dorian mode to make the same melody sound a little bit more hopeful. And I used the F sharp minor and A major chord that both contain the characteristic major sixth that is responsible for the major injection in this minor scale. After this I took the Phrygian mode to make the sound of the song really darker by using the flat second degree F. The chords that contain that note F are F major and D minor. Now if you want to write something that should sound major but a little darker and less happy than the major scale itself, then use the Mixolydian mode. That flat seventh in this scale evokes that sound. Now, chords that contain that flat seventh degree, the note D in this case, are D major and B minor. Now the major scale is obviously known to us all as the happy scale and as a counterpart of the minor scale. The characteristic notes are the perfect fourth and major seventh, especially the combination of those two. Now I used chords that contain these notes like E major 7, A major, B7, F sharp minor and C sharp minor 9. Create a super bright and uplifting and at the same time a little bit of a dreamy effect, you could use the Lydian scale. The characteristic note in this altered major scale is the augmented or sharpened fourth degree, in this case the A sharp. One chord that I use frequently in this harmonization is the F sharp 7/11 chord, which can be played as an open E shape in the third position, and it sounds like this. So we have seen how to change the mood of a melody completely by changing a major or a minor scale with just one or maybe two notes. And that's amazing. And your takeaway is that you can project this exact the same concept to any of your own songs and compositions. Now next up, I have prepared the last interesting bonus for you. Now I want to close this tutorial with pointing out that these modes are not all the scales that you can use to evoke a particular emotion. There are other scales that sound really exotic and can change your music to something special. Now I want to show you 3 of these scales. Now one is a mixture of the Mixolydian mode and the Lydian mode. It's the major scale with a sharpened 4th degree of the Lydian scale and a flattened 7th degree of the Mixolydian scale. Now such a scale is called the Lydian dominant scale and it is a mode of the melodic minor scale. Just watch my tutorial about this scale, the melodic minor scale, to learn more about the scale and its modes. The E Lydian dominant scale sounds like this over an E drone. It is a strange dualistic sound that holds between uplifting and dreamy feeling of the Lydian world and the darker major sound of the Mixolydian world. Now, when we use this skill to harmonize the beatbox soldier's melody, it sounds pretty avant-garde. Now, the second skill I want to show you is the Oriental sounding Dorian sharp 4 skill. It is a Dorian skill with a raised 4th degree that we find in the bright Lydian mode. Now, the 1.5 step interval is responsible for the Oriental sound. So it is a mixture between the Dorian and Lydian mode with a touch of Fata Morgana, and sometimes referred to as the Aladdin skill. Now, why is that Now, using this to harmonize the melody, we immediately add the Disney sound to it. Last, I want to show you the Phrygian dominant skill, which is also a mode of the harmonic minor skill and is often associated with metal, Egypt, Thunes and Lara Croft, a game that I like to play because of her good sense of humor. It is a minor skill with a flattened 2nd degree and a major 3rd degree. And when harmonizing the beatbox soldier's melody with chords from this skill, we'll get this. Now, I hope you did learn some useful things from this video, and more important, that you can apply it to your own compositions and music. Now, if all this was clear for you, then the next step is to watch these 2 videos to learn all about the modes of the melodic minor skill and the harmonic minor skill that produce super interesting sounds. Now, I want to thank my Patreons for their incredible support and feedback, and I want to thank you all for your interest and time. Subscribe for more, like and comment to interact and help me grow. Bye for now.